Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life to discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And Stoney.
Hello.
I feel like I haven't done this in a while, so I feel pretty rusty again. I also, just before we get started on the whole topic, I just wanted to touch on the fact that was it a few months ago at this point? You went on a silent retreat of your own, Jason.
Yeah, I actually I've been going every year for,
You said 15 or something.
Yeah,
years.
it's been a long
Said
time.
that,
I started going with my stepfather started dating my mom.
Wow.
Because he had been going prior to that for several years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he got me going. So I've been going with my group. It's either the last week of July, or the first week in August.
Oh, really?
Depends.
Okay, so it's been a lot longer than
it just depends on how it falls.
Well, I got involved with a group, and I had I had a sweet lady in my community that was really encouraging me to go to this one, and she's one of those ladies that really won't take no for an answer, which is great. I mean, and I love that. That was her whole goal, was to get people involved in this kind of retreat, and she had asked me if I had went, and I was like, no, I haven't gone yet. And she's like, okay, cool, go ahead and just put your information down on this paper. And I was like, well, let me talk to my boss first. Let me figure out about getting some time off or whatever. She's like, no, just go ahead and we'll figure that out. We'll figure it out. Just put your information down here, and we'll just pencil you in. And then,
can't take no for an answer.
I mean, no. And so, and at that point, like, the paper was in front of me, and she already gave me the pen, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's whatever. So I went ahead and wrote my information down, and then next thing I got really roped in, because then someone sponsored me to go, which is kind of how the whole process works. Mm-hmm. So the second you have someone that can really sponsor you to go,
right,
and all my information was there, I was like, well, I guess I'm. And again, I'm a control freak, so I like things to be I don't like to let go. So I had people that can take over the work that I was doing, or the work I was going to be doing back at work. So I really could take the time off, and the boss was more than excited about me going. And I was like, well, all right. And so it was I went for the past 3 days. It was over the weekend.
It starts. What's your time? How's it work for y'all?
It's Thursday afternoon,
right?
So you go usually like how the tradition, quote unquote, is how it works.
Right.
Is your sponsor will go take you out to dinner.
Okay.
And then as they pick up your luggage and you go out to dinner, you then go get dropped off, and then the rest of your meals are all taken care of throughout the entire weekend. And it's Thursday afternoon, and then it's Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday until Sunday afternoon around 5 o'clock as well, give or take. And then you get your sponsor picks you up again.
Kind of.
And it was a wonderful experience. There are people in my community, again, that I'm probably going to reach out to and be just like that sweet lady that really pestered me to go. Because now there's people that I feel like, oh, you would really benefit from this. And because again, you're kind of supposed to keep it down on the down low, like the details of it, because you want to experience the whole thing for yourself. And now I understand. On the other end of it, I'm like, now that I've gone through it, I get it now.
Okay.
So are you going to go next year? Is this going to be something you're going to?
They call it like progressive servanthood with this. So you become you go as like a quote unquote pilgrim the first time, and then if you want to come back, you can then help out like in the kitchen or the cleanup squad and the decoration stuff or whatever. So they have like different teams you can be a part of. There's like a musician team that I probably will get roped into, if I'm being honest. They'll probably find a way to lasso me into that one. And of course, and so I'll think about it. Happens. There's the men do it at this time of the year, and the women do it in fall. And of course, it varies. So in 6 months, I could help out behind the scenes on the women's retreat, and if I wanted to, during the men's retreat, I can get more involved in like the actual retreat itself. So, but it's a cool thing. I just want to talk about it because it's what's encompassed my past 3 days, and it's all I can think about. And then
there you go.
I didn't have my watch, because the whole premise, you don't have your watch, don't have your cell phone. None of us did. So there's a bunch of guys, probably like 25, 30 of us, that were all like just focused on hanging out with each other and being there for each other. And it was a great chance for like a bunch of guys to really just like open up to other people that are like-minded and all here for the same goal and same purpose. And it was awesome. And I met some older gentlemen that have been through some stuff, and then we got a chance to just like really I got a chance to learn from them. They learned from me, and it was awesome. So,
that's awesome. That is neat.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
So that, like I said, that's been in the topic of today.
Because you kind of missed the topic.
I was going to say I was on the cusp of it. I heard whispers of it in the hallway at work before I left on this retreat. But I didn't think anything of it because, again, I shut my phone off. I threw it in the side pocket of my bag and didn't even think about it. I had it on in case of an emergency or something. Mm-hmm. But I kept the main theme of this retreat, and I didn't look at it. I didn't keep my watch, and I just flowed on with everyone else. But,
right. Okay. Well, a couple of months ago in one of our pre-shows, Jason suggested that we watch a movie called Leave This World Behind.
Okay.
And I kind of poo-pooed it because of some of the people that financed it and were part of it. But then this great friend of mine, Pat, suggested a week ago that Miranda and I watch it because, I was telling him about the prep show and all this prepper stuff. And he said, oh, you got to watch this movie because it's kind of about everything that you're on to. And he has some military and some law enforcement and just some background that he kind of felt, this was kind of relevant to the conversation. And so we watched it, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is a great movie. Mm-hmm. The very next day we watched the movie, AT&T decided to cut all their customers off again. And so the topic of today's conversation is the AT&T outage. What does it mean? What are some of the possibilities? And how did it obviously did not affect you? Man, that's a good thing. But I'm a Verizon carrier, so it didn't affect me at all. Now, Jason, you are AT&T, and you said it didn't affect you.
Right. I was, matter of fact, I was at the house, and all of a sudden started getting these news alerts, massive outage or something to that effect. AT&T's reporting, and I'm like, okay. And then I started seeing some of the local kind of networks that I kind of get on to see what local people are saying. And people are saying, I'm seeing SOS on my phone, and everything is not working the whole time. Mine kept working. So I don't know. I had internet the entire time. So I don't know what happens. Kind of weird how some AT&T customers seem to have been affected and others were not.
When I turned my phone back on after I got back, I got a text message. It was like from AT&T, like, we apologize for the outage and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't read it though. But
basically, the way the movie starts is cellular service dies across the country.
Right,
it's just gone. Everybody
shut off communication.
Shut off communications, and just like in the movie. Here, they're talking about, what was it? Solar flare? Was it hackers? Was it war? What was happening? And so many things in this movie kind of preys on the fears of all of that, plus sticking in people in certain situations. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty good little movie. But the very next day that we watched it, this happened. And you kind of have to wonder what it was, because as it turns out, what AT&T is saying is that it was an upgrade to their software.
Okay.
Yeah, something to that effect. I saw another one by Fox News reported when they did an article on this. They said it was caused by the application and execution of an incorrect process.
Uh-oh.
Well,
maybe that was the software update.
They said as we're expanding our network. So, they said it because, of course, everybody starts, was it, of course, the idea of solar, because there were solar flares.
Yes, there are solar flares, and the big one's coming.
So that there was solar flares going on at that time, my understanding, but they're saying that's not what caused the outage.
But if the solar flare happened, then kind of everybody would be affected.
Right. To me, it would shut. It would just. It would caused havoc with satellites.
Some
and
of the
stuff
confusion
like that.
was that other carriers couldn't get in touch with the AT&T people, so they thought their system was down, and it wasn't. AT&T was the only one out. Kind of like in the flood of 2016, when AT&T and Verizon looked at all their cell towers fixing to be flooded here in South Louisiana. Decisions were made. And basically what they said was if the cell tower floods and the electricity is on, we will completely lose the tower. All of the electronics will be ruined.
Right.
And AT&T made the decision to go in and shut the towers off and then dry them out and turn them back on.
Right.
And Verizon said, screw it, keep our people going, and they left the towers on. And so that's why after the flood, you saw so many people lined up in Verizon to change the things. Now, even with that being said, AT&T is still the largest carrier in America with 217 million subscribers, and Verizon is number 2 with 143 million subscribers.
Wow. That's crazy.
So, but here's my thing. We're looking at the pandemic. We're looking at a whole bunch of things coming out that are big tests. Does anyone know who owns Verizon?
I have no idea. I guess
Verizon owns Verizon. Now, you can possibly go buy Verizon stock. Who owns AT&T?
I'd imagine AT&T, but I'm assuming with the
share,
object lesson you're giving me.
Let me share this one.
Yeah,
with
I don't
you.
know who owns AT&T.
AT&T, 59.28% of AT&T stocks is owned by institutional shares. Now, that basically means people, organizations that manage other people's money, buy it up in stocks and hoping making their people some money. The number 2 shareholder for AT&T is Vanguard Group at 14.12.
Let the conspiracies.
Oh,
arise.
it's getting deep right now.
Here we go.
Okay, but we say that.
I know.
Number 3, BlackRock, 11.49. Number 4, State Street, 7.53. Now, what are those groups? Those are financial groups that manage other people's money too. So not only is it they own the stocks themselves, but they are part of the institutional shares that they manage for other money. It's like when I keep saying 44% of American homes last year were bought by companies or shell companies that follow the money all the way back to State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. Well, this is the same thing. They own over 75% of AT&T stocks together when you add the institutional shares too.
Right.
So was it a test?
I don't know.
Or are they seeing what's going on?
They said the FBI and the FCC were both investigating this.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to believe that the FBI and the FCC would be investigating an event that was basically, they're saying, a software glitch.
Right.
Maybe it's protocol that
it's nationwide communications.
Right, they jump in there, and I don't want to jump the gun and automatically think that, but for them to jump in on it, they obviously had some concerns, and we all know right now with the state of the world we're in, especially with Iran. Iran has a very robust cyber attack capabilities.
Yes, they do.
And I think we've all read, and we've kind of touched on it in multiple podcasts, that, the United States comes under cyber attack probably a lot more than what is probably reported.
On top of that, do you know who is the largest counterfeiter of U.S. dollars?
No.
Is it Iran?
It's Iran. And part of that is back when the Shah was there, the United States gave him these copiers that can copy anything. And when he was killed, these copiers are still there. And they they are trying to destroy America. They are literally at war with America every day. But it's kind of
Persia.
you know. So
Persia's always been at war with the West.
that's right. And so when you add these little things together, and now you have companies like BlackRock that gave $450-something million to the Chinese army for their improvements last year.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
$450
$50 million for improvements to the Chinese. This is a country that's supposedly in a Cold War or wanting to take over America, and you're going to help fund their military?
Well,
That's treason.
I think we basically opened that door up during the Clinton presidency with the giving of all the Chinese our missile technology, and I don't know what's going on with that. There's just too many people are in bed with the communist government of China. I think that's part of the reason why some of these companies, I think, would like to probably maybe move some of the manufacturing out of that country. I think COVID, it showed the vulnerability of basically having all your eggs in one basket.
Well, Apple's doing that. They're moving out of China and going to India.
But
it's still a country that supports child labor and child slave labor.
Rising anti-Semitism. New generations redefining how they connect with Jewish traditions. Changing dynamics among Jews around the globe. Take a deep dive into these topics and more on Mosaic, Exploring Jewish Issues, the podcast brought to you by the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County. Hear from the thought leaders, politicians, scholars, and artists at the forefront of Jewish life today. Subscribe to Mosaic, Exploring Jewish Issues, wherever you listen to podcasts.
who's talking about India?
India. Yeah, so they're trading one thing for another.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if to create these products at the scale they're creating them.
Mm-hmm.
If they made those factories were, say, in Germany or in England or in France or Canada, I guarantee you.
Well, look,
it would be
actually
quite more expensive than what it would
huge. Be. It's a huge thing to a country to be able to do that. Look, what was it? Finland and Nokia, when Apple bought up Nokia, and they disrupted the Finland economy for 10 years because Finland was so, divested in that phone system that when it tanked, you messed with the whole country's income, and it took them a while.
And what phone was this?
Nokia.
Yeah, I remember Nokia. They were a big name.
Mm-hmm.
And early cell phone, products that were coming out. I mean, that was a big. I think I even had one.
Yeah, I think everyone did. That was like some of the they were kind of the front runners on some of the new designs and new technology.
I mean, for whatever reason, the West, we've just, we've abdicated our responsibilities for these, making stuff, especially when it comes to electronics, to the East.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're taking advantage of people making, a quarter an hour.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we don't care. I find it funny that as many of these celebrities and people get on there and talk about they care about this and they care about that, but yet they're buying products that were produced for all intents and purposes in sweatshops and child labor.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I mean, I get it because now everything is made over there.
That's right.
I mean, we have no choice. Otherwise, you don't make anything.
Right.
And nobody seems to want to build any factories.
Well,
here.
look how hard they're trying to redo Silicon Valley to start building the chips again. Well, here you go. What you're doing is you're going to spend all this money in America, but then yet you still have to pay China for the raw materials to do it. Look how many billions of dollars is going to China just for the Ford factory to build the batteries for the Ford EV vehicles. Even though you're saying it's American made, you're still dumping billions of dollars to China, our enemy.
No,
just
they're our enemy in one way, and they're not our enemy in another way. It's
Right.
just kind of a weird relationship. Same thing we have. I mean, same thing you could say with the Soviet Union.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are funding the Ukraine war, but yet at the same time, I mean, there's still business dealings between Russia and the United States.
Oh, and then Biden puts up 400 new, what are they called? Sanctions against Russia now that are going to do zero good because all China has to do is drive across the border.
Right.
And give Russia whatever they want.
Oh man, I tell you, it's
stupid.
We've just, I don't know. We've got some problems. We really do. I do worry though. It's easy to kind of just brush off these type of things that come up.
Well, we look at it, and I like the way you said that. Did it affect us? No, not really, so it's not a big deal.
But, I mean, it just shows you how vulnerable we are. I mean, I find it funny that this movie that you just saw, that I enjoyed immensely when it came out. I'd heard the rumors, I heard not rumors, that it, was partially funded by the Obamas. And, I thought, well, maybe it was, I'm funding them if I rent the movie and all that. But I really enjoyed the movie. I really thought it gave a very accurate portrayal of the human psyche.
Yes. I like that part of it. Yes.
It's because it is a mind game. It's all a mind game. How would you react if all of a sudden all the modern conveniences get yanked from you? It kind of reminds me of another story I read as a child in grade school. And I believe, what was the name of that? It may have been a Rod Serling story. It was Monsters on Maple Street. If you remember Monsters on Maple Street, it was aliens, though, that came and they picked Maple Street, this neighborhood, and they basically pulled all the technology from them. And they just let to see what would happen to human beings. So this movie, to me, kind of is. It looked like to me, it looks like it's kind of a spiritual successor to that story. Where how would we react? And I really enjoyed that. I thought with the phones going out, people not knowing what to do.
What about with the Tesla cars?
Yeah. And yeah, the cars were running into the thing because the deals got all jacked up. Was nobody controlling them?
Or were they being controlled shut off the access and
right. So, I mean, it brings up a lot of good points. And it just, I mean, as I said, some of these things we've kind of touched on in other episodes. But the more technologically advanced we become, the more impacts these kind of things would happen. Because I'm going to tell you what, to lose your phone for a day.
Yeah.
How that would affect.
Well, see, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't give a shit. I've left my phone at the house before. But this younger generations, they lose their mind.
Yeah, I mean,
they go I mean,
to pass the time.
brutally
I can pull up a book
angry.
and read, but I mean,
like violently angry.
did you see that YouTube episode of that father and that kid?
Yes. When he goes to destroy his games with
His
the lawnmower or
No,
throw
it
the.
was during the pool.
Yeah, he goes.
It was Xbox. I think it was
it's
an
all.
Xbox
It's
or
the
a
same.
Play-
It's the same thing. It's he
It's
runs
the
over his games. He throws the.
technological withdrawal.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
this young man was having an absolute meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
I can only assume his father was at a point where, like, son, you've got to get out of this house and go do something.
Right.
And it was as if someone was taking drugs from a drug addict.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was having the same
Yes.
sort of psychological reaction that he was addicted.
Mm-hmm. Well,
In the
addiction
same
to
way-
electronics is the same thing as addiction to heroin. It's been proven, and
He
it's
was
the same thing.
the poor kid was freaking out.
Well, when you get home, Google, or not Google, but search dad destroys video games with lawnmower, and it's the same dad and kid, and he's even more reactive with the
He goes, he was screaming like, I've got my game on there. Like, it's like, okay, you got your game on there. What, I mean, but that just shows you where we're at. And
that's right.
now I see Apple has come out with some new tech with Apple Vision Pros or
Right, right.
something. So we're just getting more and more diving into what I call the another real good movie I enjoyed was Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm.
Where
It's a good book too.
Yeah, where we're slowly kind of getting into this. Being embedded in this electronic world.
The crazy thing about this weekend not having my phone or my watch was interesting to. It didn't dawn on me until after I was back that, like, looking back at it, it was interesting having everyone sitting there around me, and we're all sitting here talking, but none of us are distracted by something. None of us are focused on, what's happening on our phone or what's happening next, because, again, we're all just, like, in this moment together. And I didn't think about it until after I'm all back at it again, and I was looking at people at the restaurant, and they're, like, talking with each other, but half of them are all looking at their phones. And I was like, I didn't realize that until I really sat there and thought about it. I was like, man, in those circles, I was at a table of like 5 or 6 people, and we were all, the only thing we had to focus on was like the notes we were taking and and us talking about each other and talking about our lives and just really connecting with each other. And I was like, I need to make that a more intentional thing in my day-to-day life moving forward. I already think I do a pretty good job about it, but even more so after coming back from the retreat, of like really putting my phone down. There's something so special, and you may not realize it in the moment, but you will probably realize it afterwards, about someone being like present in the moment with you and talking with you.
Right.
I think I've done that. I think, like I said, I think I do a pretty good job of that. I try my best. But even just so much as like having the phone on the table, like knowing that it's there, it can be a bit of a distraction too.
Right.
Of like I just really kept it in my pocket on purpose and was like, I'm going to have dinner with my fiance right here in front of me. And I have the ability to have my phone now. But I'm like, I think it's more important to sit here and talk. I think it's more important to have connection with friends and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's interesting to.
Did anybody see Surrogates with Bruce Willis?
Yes, I did. That was a good show.
It's basically you never leave your house.
Really?
You have these
goggles
on, and you just live in a virtual world, and you do everything virtually, and you never leave your house.
Yeah, and the reality is people are in pretty bad shape back at that because they're not getting any exercise anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's the human body is suffering because
we're not far from that right now.
Yeah, we're unfortunately there's a lot of people that are just really they're just integrated into that technology, and it's I said, I think it's just getting more and more.
Well, there's more happening with the cell phones. We had this outage. But then we also had the government test a couple of months ago where they sent the EMS signal to every phone in America.
That's right.
If you left it on. What are they doing with the phones right now? We had Brandon Iglesias on talking about how important the cell phones are with nanotechnology and signals and fifth generation
That's
weapon
right.
systems, how important is this phone to the New World Order is what I'm worried about.
Well, I think I read some of his stuff. Brandon still sends me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, the next, people are not going to realize, they think, what 5G. And there were people that when 5G was getting rolled out, there were people kind of raising alarms of what 5G could be.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking about going up to even 6G.
6G is right around the corner.
Yeah, so I think, and this Brandon touched on this, that now you can kind of compress certain things within these signals to actually affect the human body.
Right.
So that's where I think,
especially with nanotechnology being injected to you with the vaccines and stuff.
Well, there's a lot of people that's coming out. Look, I took the vaccine. I took 2 shots. Haven't taken any boosters. My doctor asks me every time I go see him, are you I said, no, I ain't taking any more COVID shots.
I was talking to somebody Thursday of last week. I was in a business talking to somebody, and he said, I took the 2 shots, and he says, I have never been the same.
Well,
he says, I regret that more than anything. He said, I will never take another shot or vaccine like that again. Now my doctor's trying to push me to take this group of vaccines together. And he says, I can't do it.
I think, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. I take vaccines. I normally get flu shots every year. I've gotten the shingles vaccine because of my age. I will probably end up getting the pneumonia shot, when I get to a certain age. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I know people who are anti-vaxxers and the autoimmune deficiencies that supposedly,
I can't say I was anti-vax until COVID.
Well,
now I'm pretty much anti-vax.
I think it was COVID hit us so fast. I think people were legitimately afraid, and they had no idea what to expect with it. And that's what I'm saying. This was an exercise. To me, it was a perfect example of how fear motivates us. It did. It changed
and
people.
Divides us.
It changed people. So to me, that was a small microcosm of how we would react if something else came out. And so that's just like in the movie, with the phones, even now when the phones went out, people were freaking out. And then all of a sudden, we start entertaining our worst fears with this stuff. Because deep down, we live now in a very uncertain time. And people are afraid because a lot of people, I think, feel betrayed with what happened with COVID and the shots.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I think medicine took a hit because people want to believe that we're trying to heal people. That's the whole point of this. And, but look.
Well, the medical world believes a cured customer is a non-paying customer, so they don't want you healthy.
Well,
they don't want you healthy.
I'd venture to say the whole, Western medicine, while it has produced wonders, we have answers to polio, diseases that once crippled the population, yellow fever, malaria, hantavirus, Ebola, some of these terrible things that are out there. For the most part, Western medicine has done a good job of kind of checking a lot of that.
Well, because at one time they really wanted to help people. Now they really want to make a profit.
Well, you can say that about pharmaceuticals.
Well, they're what's the saying? You'll never cure anything until you cure greed. Because as long as they can make money off of it, they're not going to cure you. Think about the common cold. How long has the common cold been out there? Can you imagine, let's say this, Jason, today, you are now the CEO of Tylenol Cold Remedy Company. Whoever owns that company, you are now the CEO of that company, okay? And you're making $20 billion on symptom relief. Can you imagine how fast you would be ripped into a million pieces if you went to your shareholders Friday and said, I have some good news and I have some bad news? The good news is we have cured the common cold. The bad news is next year we're not going to make $20 billion in symptom relief. How long do you think you're still going to live? You're not. They will kill you right there. So until you cure greed, now look, I'm a capitalist. I believe everybody should be able to make a profit and live and support their family. But, you know, when you're making billions and billions off of symptom relief, what reason do you have to cure it? None.
The thing about it, though, and I agree, capitalism is great.
Yes.
As a system of giving people incentives to try to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the best system to bring people out of poverty. Unless there's another system that we have not thought of yet, I think it's the best one we have. I do think, though, this is where I kind of temper my capitalistic tendencies. I do believe when it comes to health,
mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the same thing as making a widget.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
I just think there are some things that should be above that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's just so much money to be made in health related. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, pharmaceutical reps. I knew friends of mine that
I had some friends make
they were
tons
making
of money.
tons of money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what did that lead to? It led to the what's that stuff?
Oxycontin.
The Oxycontin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was all these people going around pushing this stuff on these doctors.
Well, they knew then that it was addictive, but they kept telling everybody it's not addictive and let's make money.
Exactly. So the Sacklers made billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Still a very, very wealthy family. And I don't know whatever happened to them. I know they went to court and they think they had to put out a bunch of money. But believe me, they're not in the soup line.
It's still not hurting.
They're not in the soup line right now. But that's what I'm saying. I think that there are some things that far exceed the idea of selling a pair of tennis shoes.
Right.
You know, or a piece of furniture. You know, I'm all about if you can make that cheaper and you get people to buy it, more power to you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just think when it comes to health, that's where I feel like I think we need a little less capitalism and a little bit more of a better way of trying to make the human race healthy.
Right.
And I do believe that a lot of cures for a lot of common ailments are in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And like now, I've really gotten onto the elderberry.
There you go.
The elderberry train when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to health. If I feel myself coming down, I start sucking down elderberry.
Yeah.
And so I hate taking medicine.
Now, you see, I
Absolutely hate taking medicine.
I prescribe to a similar, different plan of watching the portions that I eat. So now I eat one donut. But what I'll do is I'll take that dozen donuts and I'll stack them on top of each other and I'll press it down so hard. Just press it that it looks like one donut and I'll eat one donut.
There you go.
It's amazing the things we do to
That's right.
justify things.
That's
in our,
right. Still one donut, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just.
So tell me now, real quick, about the movie. So
Yes.
what did you think of the ending?
See, I liked the ending. Miranda did not like the ending. And I liked the ending because you had to work for it a little bit.
Right.
And I don't want to give too much to any of our listeners or Ian here if he wants to bring the subject up to his other
That would be
podcast.
a great movie.
It would be a great movie for y'all. I liked it. You worked for it a little bit, but I liked it. Because if you work for it, you go, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay. Maybe. They
leave enough ambiguity.
Yes.
That you kind of need to fill in.
What they did was
gaps.
A lot of times in movies today, you have to have a happy ending. And over the last couple of maybe 10 or 15 years in the TV series and movies, they've taken that happy ending away from you. And what this movie did was leave enough of it that maybe it was happy, but there's some more that could come. And you don't know. And it leaves it up to you to decide how you want that movie to end.
Yeah, because I think if I remember, there's kind of these kind of in the background noise, these radio broadcasts of what's going on. And yeah,
there's enough for you to make
kind of.
But I loved. You had Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
You had Julia Roberts.
Yep.
And then the great cameo of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Was that not awesome?
Yeah, it was good.
And I don't want to change this to a movie thing because I think this AT&T thing is still very serious. But
before we continue, what is the name of the movie again?
Leave This World Behind.
Leave This World Behind.
And it's shot well.
Yes.
Now, Miranda didn't like some of the shots, but you can tell there was some foreign influence in it.
Yeah.
Be the directing and producing, just the way some of the shots are in the beginning. It's hard, but it makes the movie look real. I think sometimes you can have a movie that's just too clinical and the shots are too perfect. That, to me, it takes away. They wanted this movie to... When have you ever heard Julia Roberts cuss? She dropped the F-bomb a couple of times. I'm like, yes! They made the movie kind of real. And then the things they brought into you were real. What if this happened? Or what if that would happen? What if this person does this? And you're like, oh, crap.
Right.
You know, I know how I would handle it. But is everybody going to handle it the way I would? Because right now we have three different situations here.
I'm very pessimistic on humanity because COVID showed me really what the human psyche would do. We didn't learn anything. I mean, nobody's like, oh, God, now I know how to act.
Actually, we did. Actually, I learned something. My thought process is right. That's what I learned.
You know,
I agree what you're saying, though. Like, as a whole, I don't think society learned from it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that was
I agree.
that was a big
100%.
thing. I don't think,
as I'm saying, that was you know, I had relatives that passed away from COVID. So it was very personal for me. I do believe, though, the disease, affected people with comorbidities, and that's who were really dying from this, were people that were generally overweight, very unhealthy, which any sickness would sock it to you.
But a lot of this was the way it looked, especially from the beginning, was it was a designed virus. It was designed to do those things. It was designed to attack the older population, especially when you look at Wuhan, China, and Bill Gates's laboratory 15 miles from Wuhan, China. When the Chinese are looking at so many elderly people in their country, taking all the resources and not producing anything, they wanted something to destroy the older population, and it worked. But then again, like you bring up with Western medicine, we were able to combat that a little more than they, And so we survived it a little bit better than them, but that was a designed virus to attack the older community and attack. If you had a heart problem, it attacked that.
Right.
If you had this problem, it attacked that. If you had whatever your problem was in your body,
I'm gonna
it
tell
was
you,
attacking
when
that.
I had it, because I had COVID twice, but the first one I got was actually I came back from Mississippi and caught it. It attacked my blood pressure.
Mm-hmm. But you already had a blood pressure problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it hit that hard. I didn't even know.
I mean, my brother, I mean, was a prime example of that. I mean, like, he may have had some digestive issues and some struggles and stuff, but he got COVID, and I think he got COVID a total of 2 or maybe 3 times before, like, all of a sudden it was. I'm by no means I'm a doctor, and I'm saying this is what caused it, but also, like, he was stressed out with going to school for college. I go into medical school as well as being a paramedic and working a lot of shifts. So they claim that it was stress induced, but he has ulcerative colitis now. He's got he's now in remission after 2 years or something like that.
But it attacked that.
But he didn't have that beforehand, and of course he got a bunch of different cases of COVID, which then his symptoms started getting worse, and then before you know it, and with stress, I think didn't help it out at all.
Well, stress does not help anything.
Well, you're
stress,
right,
absolutely,
you're right.
and I feel bad for your brother, but stress does not help anything. But when you add all those things together, man,
right? But it just for me it felt very coincidental because, like you were saying before, you got it, and now there's some issues. This person got it, and now there's issues, or is attacking a certain thing. And I think that was probably a weakness for him.
I haven't been quite the same.
That's what I'm saying.
Since I've had it.
And then you add
my brother can definitely say that for sure.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But then you add the problems now, not just with the COVID, but with the vaccines, because there are people experiencing some real traumas from the vaccines. Yeah. I have a couple of questions when we do the Ask the Mortician episode coming up about some of the things that they're finding in the bodies now from people that have had the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm and I would like to say now that I've brought some of this up to that I am not depressed. I am not suicidal. I have absolutely zero intentions of killing myself. So if in the future I die of suicide, please contact my law enforcement friends and let them know that I did not commit suicide.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, I'm seeing here in this article, said the most likely cause of the outage is a cloud misconfiguration.
Okay.
Which is a fancy word for human error.
Mm-hmm. Well, they put out there that it was an update malfunction. They were trying to update some software and it malfunctioned.
Right. Well, I mean, again, the thing is that is not. It's not that that's not plausible, because it is. I mean, like that's
it happens.
That's with anything with technology. You trying to update something, or especially when it's like, if it is what they're saying, like cloud based, then it's like, okay, now we're really just dealing with.
But when you look at it,
I'm not.
Here's your map of the outages. Look how interesting that is.
Yeah. See there, if we were on video, we could be showing everybody that.
Tell me that's not interesting.
Yeah.
Here's all your outages right here.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So
just for people at home that we're looking at, it's like there's dots all over the map, and a lot of them are like around major cities and stuff.
Yep.
Like there's some all the way out in California. I would say Los Angeles and San Francisco are like dotted all across. Seattle, Phoenix, Houston, Dallas has a bunch of them. Like there's dots kind of spread out all over like these major, and obviously the East Coast where like a majority of the population of the United States is, like there's all these different cities that are all.
Well, AT&T said they're going to give everybody a $5 credit.
Ooh, yay!
A $5 credit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, how much is $5 times 241 million?
Oh, there you go. That's a good math to do.
Is it everyone, or is it everyone that was affected?
Everybody that was affected.
So
that's why they keep saying, even though you can look at these numbers here and tell that it was more than 72,000 people that they keep saying it was, but you know,
Right.
that's why they keep saying, "Oh, it was just 72,000 people."
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. It's probably the low estimate.
Yeah.
you gotta do the low number.
Yeah, it said it said announced will be extending a full day of service credit to customers impacted by a substantial outage that lasted over 10 hours on Thursday.
Oh, so it was just on Thursday.
Yes, it was. It was
Got
just
it. Okay,
this
okay.
outage, which affected more than 70,000 users across the United States.
Mm.
So 70,000 times $5.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's. I mean, without all the. I'm gonna say the word conspiracy theory. But I'm not saying that's what exactly it is. Without all that stuff out the way, if you just really just boil it down to if it is just a mistake, man, you better. That's a big mistake. Like, let's just say let's if I could be devil's advocate here and just say that like what they're saying is the 100% truth. I'm not saying it is, but let's say that what they're saying is the 100% truth, that someone made a mistake or a few people made a mistake and caused some sort of update issue or a cloud issue that ended up messing with the whole thing. Bruh, somebody got fired.
I would hate to be in that. I would hate to
fired Thursday.
I would hate to be in that boardroom,
Ooh,
Yeah.
But then you have to look at it like this.
or I should say management meeting.
Yeah, you're
if
right.
if you think about it, $5 times $72,000.
Yeah, let's
That's
see.
not a real expensive
70,000 times $5. That's nothing to AT&T. What's AT&T's gross profit this
I
last
don't
year?
If they do 72,000 and they give each $72,000 $5, it's going to be $360,000.
So
Yeah, see, that's
that's a
nothing.
drop in the
So
bucket.
if you're BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and you want to do some type of a system test to see what would happen, that's a really cheap test.
And again, another thing is that you have a paper there that says like people, like you have a whole bunch of numbers broken down that exceeds 72,000. Are they saying it's like 72,000 network plans and not like people?
AT&T's gross profit for 2023 was $72.305 billion, a 3.45 increase over the year before.
Wow. Dang. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
360,000 is small.
Yeah. Verizon's not as big, but their gross profit was $79 billion, a 1.78 increase from 2022.
What was AT&T's again? If that's 79 billion?
78.
Oh, 78. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How weird. Oh, so AT&T has more
people.
people, but they're bringing in less money. That's weird. By $1 billion. Wow, what a.
well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think it shows the vulnerability of these lifeline systems that are critical for national security and our everyday lives. I mean, to me, these are the things that just occasionally remind me that as fancy and as advanced and the wonders of technological achievements that we have created in our lifetime, it's these kind of things that kind of go,
It feels very fragile.
It is. You're living in a glass house.
I've heard the same thing when it comes to I lived during the recession whenever Obama was president, and I remember that was a thing that everyone was talking about. I had friends in high school that were talking about it, about how like the stock market and how like America or just the modern world is so fragile. It's like just a few things collapse, and of course like it feels like this whole house of cards comes crumbling down. That the same sort of thing happened whenever the Great Depression happened, and that kind of stuff, where it's like.
Just for the record, T-Mobile, the third largest, was $48 billion.
Wow.
So the top three have made almost $200 billion in profit.
Dang.
Last year. In profit alone.
That's wild.
I think when you hear talks of hardening up the infrastructure, I do believe that more money and resources should be invested in doing that. And I don't think there's not enough. I mean, just how you hear about storms come in, power lines getting knocked down or power's out forever because, you know.
What do they say? Over 75% of the bridges in America are dilapidated. They need to be replaced.
We don't, I'm telling you, and this is kind of veering a little bit off topic, but y'all probably all saw the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Vladimir Putin.
I haven't seen all of it. I've heard about it though.
It was a good interview. I enjoyed it. But he caught a lot of flack for saying this. He goes, their cities over there are beautiful. There's no trash on the streets. There's no graffiti everywhere. I mean, you can almost eat off the floor in the subways. He goes, they're safe. Nobody fears for their life. And I think that kind of goes in a little bit what you're saying about bridges. We do not spend money here to basically fix our own place.
Well, how much money do you think Russia sends to other parts of the world? They don't. They we're borrowing money from China to send money to the Ukraine to money launder it back to the Biden crime family.
Well, I think it goes hand in hand with America's role post-World War II. And unfortunately, we have not been able to kind of pull back. I know Trump talked about this when he was president, when he campaigned on this in the 4 years he was in office, this Make America Great Again, this idea of we need to focus on America.
Yeah.
And that means we need to take care of our own backyard. And I think that's why we don't have beautiful cities. I mean, you look at some of the architecture in like Malaysia, Taiwan. I mean, it looks like they're light years ahead of us. And I'm sitting there going, why can they do that?
Because the priorities are different.
We're the richest country in the world, and we have cities that look like third world. Especially now with the homeless population just exploding in some of these once great cities. Like I talked to a friend of mine the other day that she said, I'll never go back to San Francisco. It's not even the same city.
It's not.
That what it was when I went there 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Wow.
Well, people are saying the same about New Orleans. You know, how much has New Orleans changed? When I lived in the French Quarter in the 80s and 90s. I lived in the French Quarter. And when Miranda and I were together, I wanted to take her and show her, oh, hey, I lived here. You know, I can't get there now, but I lived here. You go in the little gate and you go through the courtyard and boom, 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 highest livable point in the quarter. And it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same people. It's not the same quarter. It's not the same mentality. Everything is different. We did an episode a while back on just the downtown areas and what they're like and how they're just dying. And even though there's some people try to revive them, but it's just met with, well, it's going to cost too much money. Really? How about we quit sending money elsewhere and we take care of our own here?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people making a lot of money sending money. And
that's right. It's called money laundering.
Right. And they can't do it here.
Oh, you have to think about, what's going on right now. We got the money laundering. Now we got the illegal immigrants. In San Francisco, they hired an illegal immigrant as the city's voting manager that is in charge now of all of the voting records and everything else. Well, number one, in America, it's illegal to hire an illegal immigrant to work.
Right.
So whoever hired that person should be in jail. Then you have the governor of New York saying, oh, we'll send them here and we'll just give them jobs. How about we don't?
All right.
How about we put our veterans to work? How about we put our homeless people? If we can put all of these people in hotels, why can't we put our own homeless people in these hotels first?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take care of us first. And then start worrying about the other stuff.
Right.
Well,
and don't forget, there is a hashtag out there, Stoney for President.
Oh, gosh.
Started here on this podcast, not by me, but it's still fun.
I think this little event that happened, I think it just lets us know that we're still very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was
having our way of life
diversify,
just disrupted.
Yeah.
To a significant extent, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of people were affected by this outage. A lot of businesses, a lot of first.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's what I feel like.
I would like to quote the movie. Leave This World Behind. There is a great quote in it, and it says, "If you're not already paranoid, it's probably too late." We need to start thinking about these things, and we need to start wondering why. And we need to start tracking the money. Where does it go?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way you're going to find out the truth. Follow the money. I don't know if y'all understand investigating and law enforcement and things like that. There's an old saying, follow the money.
Right.
Follow the money.
Well, that's generally going to be the motivation for people to do
You're
what
right.
they do. As I said, people like the scenario the way it is now because it's good for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want nothing to change because if it means it changes, means I'm probably not making any money anymore.
You're right.
That's right.
So.
Well, I guess with that, is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this one up? Because that's
no,
powerful.
I just think we need to be aware that our grid out there is vulnerable, even though this seems to be an internal event that caused this outage. As I said, the FBI and FCC and Homeland Security, they're still investigating it to see if.
Yeah.
The question is, if it was more than that, would they come out and say it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they would.
I don't know if they would either. You have to look at the electric grid, how vulnerable that is. We have attacks on that every day.
Right.
And they don't tell us about 98% of the stuff that happens to our electric grid.
So, could it be a mixture of both?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll just kind of file that in the back of my brain and, just once again, just realize that we're walking somewhat of a tightrope in our modern world.
Mm-hmm.
As long as things are just going smooth, nothing's going to happen. We'll go about our life. But if that wind starts blowing a little bit and we start swaying a little bit, it just realize how vulnerable we are.
Right.
And we just need to be vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my last words.
Okay.
And with that, do you still want to ask for questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So we're still trying to get some questions together for the Ask the Mortician episode. We're going to try and schedule that pretty soon so we can get. What is the name for the? Is it her?
Yes.
What's her name? Or doesn't matter.
Keep that quiet.
Okay, keep it
right
quiet.
now.
Yeah, keep it quiet
right
now.
now.
I wanted to say. Anyways, we're
I
gonna.
don't know if she wants to say her first and last name.
Cool.
So we'll
I just want to make sure. I was going to say we're going to get some. At the very least, it's a her. So we'll get some questions ready for her, so that way we can go ahead and get that episode underway. Because I think that's going to be a really awesome episode.
I think it's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be fun. It's a cool premise. But anyways, we also have our email if you want to go ahead and give us some those questions, and that is getoffendedtogether@gmail.com, or we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, where you can also send questions as well if you want to. And that's all I got. Until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Don't forget, if you're not already paranoid, it's probably too late. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today. You're the best. Peace.